Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RENNSPORT Nordschleife League, to the fourth race of the first season. And here today with a car that has gotten a great update 2 weeks ago. And I'm very much looking forward to this race because it could be anyone's race. And with this anyone, I also mean the highest player count we had in the Nordschleife League. But I will not have to talk to you for 60 minutes on my own. Of course, I'm, as usual, joined by the lovely voice of Tim Ireland.
Hello, Lena, and hello everyone on the stream. How are you today? To both of you.
I'm feeling pretty good. I've worked on a BMW throughout the day, so I guess that's a good omen for today's race. Currently in qualifying, and we are watching Ali Zahir, who has been returning to the Nordschleife now. And in general, we have quite an interesting grid. Of course, in terms of the standings, it's very much going the way of Dominik Ladler, as you might expect. But I think this race could mix some things up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a very different race, obviously being in the M2 rather than the GT3s, which we've been coming and going with, and we'll come back to again in 2 weeks' time. But it's a completely different car, a completely different tyre model from what they're maybe used to with the M2. It's been out for a couple of weeks, so I'm sure they've got used to it by now. But it's a lot of unknowns to throw into one race, so it should be pretty exciting.
Yeah, of course, with the point system being different this season compared to other seasons previously, you gain more points with more competition. We have 12 cars on the track, as far as I can see. And yeah, that will give you quite the amount of points, doesn't it?
Yeah, it should give whoever wins this a decent bump in points, and hopefully there's an exciting race to watch. We've got some good competitors here, some of our regular names, some of our not so regular on broadcasts, but more regular on Discord members.
Yeah, it also sets us up for the final race of the season, doesn't it? Which will take place in 2 weeks. We're currently at the fourth race, and the next one will be a 2-hour race. More bonus points to collect. And in general,
Yep.
very much an endurance race.
Yeah, we're getting a bit more endurancey with that kind of length on a Nordschleife race, which I'm really looking forward to. I think it should be pretty cool for these guys to race in, and it should make for some interesting racing for us to watch.
GT3, always a banger, let's say. But maybe we should not talk about what's coming next all the time, because we live in the current, and the current is BMW M2 in qualifying. And Alizai is the first contract, and it seems like he's on a pretty good time here. Because we only see the first 3 sectors at the moment. But if you take a look at the track map, there is a bit of a gap between the cars. We have the likes of Ronda and Hurt. Cesco Munuera is finally back here in the league. It's very nice to see him. We've seen him in a couple of races a long time ago. And also the likes of Julian Chico competing. And what I find very interesting is the driver you are spectating, which we have now on screen.
Yeah, the dreaded Remco Mayor taking to the track again, much to the probably sighs from everyone else taking part, but he always makes things interesting.
I don't think that it will be a surefire win for him.
No.
But he is definitely one to watch out for. We currently have a pack of 4. Of course, these drivers don't see each other as we are in qualifying. So everybody is alone on track doing their hot lap, but you can see the pace difference. It is there. The drivers start at different times.
Yeah, Remco is a big fan of the M2, and he's also a big fan of the Nordschleife. He very much likes this combination. He's not shy about saying so. So I'm expecting some pretty good pace out of him today, but it is a 60-minute race, and you're never really sure what's going to happen. I've been racing with him, not against him, just with him in a few public races, and he's had some fights on his hands against some of the people in public races recently. There's been some fairly decent quality drivers in there.
Well, one was me, so. But
Well, yeah, obviously.
yeah, as you say, it will be very interesting, and I think if we've seen or if we've learned one thing this season, one thing that remained constant, of course, was the damage being on. We have seen people doing mistakes that are uncharacteristic. We have seen people running out of fuel. We have seen pretty much any way you can not finish this race happen in one form or another. So Enrico Breuninger, who unfortunately can't drive today, is a bit worried about Julian Chicot in the standings, but I wouldn't bet money on anybody. I mean, I bet money yesterday in Ruan's league and it went against me, but I wouldn't put any money on anybody making it through the finish line. Not because they are terrible drivers or something, but just because it is very challenging. This track, the conditions, it is still a fairly unfamiliar car to some, even though it drives very greatly, gives you a lot of feedback. A challenge is a challenge.
Yeah, and it's the Nordschleife. It's probably one of the most challenging tracks out there, so you can't rule anything out, really.
Yeah, if there are, let's say, two tracks where you can't predict anything, no matter how good the driver, it's the Nordschleife and it's Bathurst. I think those tracks,
Yeah,
they can break any driver. But so far, they definitely doesn't... I can't talk anymore. And it's only 10 minutes into the stream. It already broke me. But if it doesn't scare one driver, it's Alizar, because just looking at the way he drives, he's throwing that car into every single turn.
Ali has been doing a lot of public racing recently since the tyre update. You know, he seems to always be in or around races. He'll shake any car any time and drive it. So he's got a lot of practice at driving the M2 in the last couple of weeks.
And he's a very adaptable driver as well, so I don't see much problem with him here.
Yeah, he is.
But let's keep an eye out for those lap times. Alizar will be the first to set a lap time as well. One of the first cars out on track.
We have a couple of people who are still in the server but didn't start qualifying for whatever reason they decided against it. So the current field is 13 drivers, and they are, I think, still in the server, so they should still join the start of the race.
Alizar 9:15. And Dominic Ladler
qualifying long enough.
I'm also not sure right now, but Dominic Ladler will race from the front, in front of Alizar here. Will definitely be something to be reviewed. But here we are for the race. This might be even more interesting now. Not gonna lie.
It does mix things up a little bit more in the grid.
But here we see the red lights turn on. Dominic Ladler and Alizar on the front row of the grid. We go racing and we have one car stationary, two cars stationary on the grid, causing a bit of an issue there. As we go down towards turn 1. I think that's Vernon Hood on the offense of Alizar here, the number 3 car. That should be Ron. And indeed it is. Remco Meyer up to 5th.
Dennis Kurtzer had a bit of a technical issue there at the beginning, I think, but he is moving now.
So we have 13 cars driving. And Dominic Ladler is leading the train. Kimi Hapler currently in 6th. He's been very new to the Nordschleife. He just recently acquired the pack that comes with it. But he's been quick out of the box.
Yeah, I don't know if he's driven the Nordschleife before, but he's definitely only just acquired it on RENNSPORTs. Unfortunately for our mod team, Jason Kazar has took the brunt of the damage from that start and is driving a very sorry looking M4, M2.
We will see how he can bounce back from it. On the other hand, Remco Major is seemingly doing just fine, and they go side by side again just behind, as Adrian Lunio is trying to get past the forecore of Kimi Hapler, or the other way around, I'm not quite sure. But with a pack of 4 BMW, we go into Vedol for the first shine. Still side by side.
Yeah, there's a lot of side-by-side action here, and they've got to be very careful at this point in a race. Nobody wants to pick up damage that they have to carry for the rest of it.
I think Cesco Munero just clipped the barrier into Sabine Schmidt's curve.
Yeah, his car did have a bit of a wobble there, didn't it?
It looked a bit weird, not gonna lie. Can also see in the timing tower one they hold pretty close to Ali Zaya for second. Oh, and that's trouble for Cesco Munuera, who went straight and then touched with, I think it was Kimi Hapler. That will drop him right down the grid. Has to make a U-turn in a very unfortunate spot on the track.
He's got moving again, so he's back in the race. A couple of seconds behind Jason Kazar, who's probably a bit down on pace with the slight lacking of front of his BMW.
Yeah, this one is surely not pleasant to drive at the moment. But the BMW M2 definitely does what it's set out to do. Let's have a fight for 9th here. Joining in Norden as well is Thorsten S. who, goes straight in Schwedenkreuz. A lot of damage to that front right of the car. It will take a longer time with this car to really settle in the order. I think we will still see some position changes during the lap.
Yeah, and it's got quite a strong draft, so I think dotting of her could lead to a few changes as long as you can stay within drafting range coming up to it. And maybe with it being so strong, the old double change.
Yeah, that could very well be the case. Especially with that 7th gear. Maybe we'll see it used for the first time. I think the next one up is the two Dutchmen. Ron Den Hurt and Remco Major for P3.
Yeah, Remco's been hunting down that position for the last couple of corners, and he's looking pretty strong. But Rowan's no slouch, and he's definitely not new to our league races here, so I'm sure he'll be soaking up the pressure.
Yeah, he has participated in all 3 races. He unfortunately didn't finish one yet, but I mean that just comes down to the track. But I think with this car, maybe this will be a chance. And he has the pace, he has the talent to collect a big chunk of points here. And after learning a lot, he's been talking about in the Discord for quite some time, he now knows that he just has to finish. And I think with that takeaway from the early season, we will see him rising in the standings as well.
Yeah, he's definitely been learning a lot as he's been racing with us, and he's always had good pace. And like I say, he's been taking part in a lot of the races, picking up things. Remco Major going to the outside there,
going into the grass.
Move.
Side by side into Mutkurve. There is contact, there's a drift, and Remco Major takes the position.
That was a brown pants moment.
That was definitely a big code brown. The pencil has drawn. But I've also seen that Alizai has gotten closer to Dominik Ladler on that stretch up through Kesselchen.
Yeah, with these cars being lower powered, you really have to carry that speed on the long uphill sections here at Nordschleife. It's a lot more difficult to build that up.
Johnning and Norton is also stuck at a place where you don't really want to be stuck. I think every car on track has passed him, so it's good to go now, but seems to be quite some damage to the front right of the car as well.
Chestu Munera has unfortunately called it a day and retired to the pits. Maybe after his earlier crashing.
Yeah, could be that there was some more at play for the Spaniard, but I hope we will see him back.
If you've got specific suspension damage specifically, that's too many S's, then having to do that amount of Nordschleife before you could get past the pits is fairly demoralising.
Yeah, it is very cruel. It's not a track where you can just go back to pits. But Remco Major, he's certainly not thinking about pitting, because he is hunting down Alizai and he's right on the bumper going into the jump here at Flansgarten.
Not Hoddy. I can't spell. No, I don't want to pin it.
We welcome everybody in chat, of course.
I'm the world's best Twitch moderator.
But Remco Major, of course, now in a good range for slipstream down the Lüttinger, but oh, Alizai going right through the small coaster, and will they go side by side through Gallenkopf now? Remco Major takes the position, but does this remind you of a certain situation we had in round 2?
Of all the places to overtake, it's not always the optimal one. We've got a similar situation going on down the field with Rowan and Kimi Harper as well, who are very, very close on the Dottinger.
Alizai is too far away to take back the position from Remco, but it looked very much like... Actually, the move that was pulled on Alizai by Julien Checot in the BMW GT4s, if you think about it. But there goes Kimi Hapler. Past Rondon Hood. And now bump drafting down. That's very nice to see, in a way.
Rowan having a bit of a sketchy moment there with two wheels on the grass. Not what you want as you're coming into Tiergarten.
Maybe try to copy Remco's move. It wouldn't be totally out of the world. Oh, and now maybe counter opportunity, because Kimi Hapler had to sacrifice the exit.
Yeah, immediately fighting back there. Going into the long drag down to turn 1.
Can make both lines work in this car. Kimi Hapler down the inside. Renan Hood on the outside. There is contact, but Kimi Hapler keeps him locked out. Oh, but great comeback move there from Rondon Hood.
Yeah, it was some good fighting there. Always good to see two of our regulars having a battle between themselves. Kimi just getting a little bit out of shape. I know the preferred method of driving these cars amongst the faster guys is definitely TC0. And although it's a lower powered car, if you're coming from a GT3 kind of background, they've still got plenty of power.
Yeah, very much so indeed. I mean, what is it, like 350-ish, 320-ish horsepower? They do have their weight. I mean, they're not as heavy as some other, especially BMWs, but they are not quite light. They are not your Mazda MX-5s or Civics or whatever you want to call it, MR2s. They do have their rate, and the way the cars work is you can slide them around a bit, but you of course have to watch out. They can be quite spicy, as Kimi Haplan tries on the outside of Vedol. They go side by side. Has to go onto the curbs. Bit forceful maybe from Ron, but so far I think this is cool racing to watch.
Yeah, for sure. It's great to see, coming on to lap 2 of the Nordschleife race, people still fighting bumper to bumper. Adrian Luneau is not far behind, so if they carry on fighting like this, it might become a 3-row fight.
Oh, Julien Chicot with a lot of damage to his car. Wonder if that was from the start or something else, because I just wanna... he is quite far down the order. And this is of course huge in the championship picture, because Chicot is still third.
Jason Kazar deciding to carry on with his BMW in the current state of things, which it's a decision.
He's not too far Thorsten S, who struggles on his own regards, so maybe he decides he won't lose 30 seconds in total.
Yeah,
probably
maybe.
a bit more than that, all things considered.
I like how Jason Kazar's BMW still has the headlight, but it's about a foot further back into the hood than it should be.
As long as it has TÜV, I don't mind. Kimi Hapler found back his form. He's again getting closer and closer to Ron and Hurt. I'm surprised that Dominic Ladler is not really being catched onto by Remco Maillon. Gap is still 2 seconds. Think Remco Maillon will have a hard time.
Maybe, yeah. The opening lap, Dominic Ladler was 2 seconds quicker than Remco because he had to work his way through the traffic. But yeah, the gap isn't... It's coming down a little bit, but it's not dramatic. Of course, he's got 46 minutes to make it up, so he's got plenty of time. And as I say, it's not dramatic. It's suddenly shot down to a second.
Just because I got past Thorsten S here. Just seen some yellows popping out in Arenberg. Probably rare for Thorsten. Oh, and Ruined and Hood. Oh, I just completely misread the timing tower, but still, it's pretty much the same time, because you see those cars are moving as one through the turns.
Yeah, it's a good wheel-to-wheel battle that's going on here. Adrian Luneau closing right up, so it is now a 3-way fight. Means Kimi's got to be a bit less aggressive and worry a little bit more about Adrian Luneau behind him.
Yes, and we could, one in chat also points out tire wear will be interesting on this track. We had a 45-minute race at Fuji in the M2, what's it called, the BMW M2 World Cup, which is hosted by Bruno Weberis. That one was interesting on tire wear because the cars got faster for a certain period of time just to slow down, and now we have a 3-way of cars going up Kesselchen. But tire wear will be more interesting in this race, especially tire heat.
Almost looked like Kimi's bump drafting him up the hill there, so close together. Oh.
They go side by side.
It was a sketchy moment there, but managed to avoid all the accidents, which fair play to all 3 of the drivers there.
But that now means Adrian Luneau is in front of Kimi Hapler.
And also Timothy Fritsch now only 2.6 seconds behind the group. Which, that little incident wouldn't...
You said it before.
Wouldn't have helped their pace much.
You said it, TC0, fast drive is preferred, but it is dangerous, and now he dropped down below. Oh, Timothy Fritsch, and that's one to note. And Kimi Hapler, up and under after hitting Ron. I did not see that coming.
No. That was well caught by you there, for the camera guy. But yeah, I was not expecting that to happen, but that's definitely put a bit of a dampener on the four-way fight that was developing there. Well, I'm sure Adrian Lenoir will be over the moon with that, as he's now gone from 6th to 4th.
Very much so. But, I mean, that was a super unfortunate event, let's say.
Yes.
The thing is, Kimi Hapler, one, I'm not quite sure if it was better that he spun the car around or not, if it would help. But Timothy Bridge just barely avoided the car. Kimi Hapler couldn't see him in time, catch the front, and then basically jumped out 90 degrees to the track. It is a very freak set of circumstances, but if you had a car rolling over at the Nordschleife for the bingo card of RENNSPORT Nordschleife League Season 1, then congratulations, you just got yourself another... Maybe that's a concept we should follow through.
Yeah, maybe. Rowan's car, obviously, he's got a bit of overheated tyres, probably, after what's just happened, and he's been a bit slidey through the last few corners.
We got extensive cooling to the front right, at least, but Remco Major in prime slipstream position to Dominik Ladler on the Dirtinger. But Dominik Ladler seemed to have had a good exit out of Galgenkopf, which should help him. The exit is really crucial in this car, because the slipstream is strong, but it's not quite as strong as in the GT3s.
He's starting to close the gap ever so slightly, but he might be looking for a stronger position into turn 1 now, thinking ahead.
Yeah, he's right with him. But we only completed lap 2 and I already have about 7 highlight clips on my on my checklist.
And we've said it many times before, but catching up to Dominik Ladler's one thing, getting past him is a very different one.
But we're also talking about Remco Major, and he's going very deep. Dominik Ladler is setting up for a repass, I think, here. Can he get the traction down?
I'm not sure he's alongside enough. No, he's conceding the position for now.
I mean, what comes into play here as well is, of course, the thing that we talk about every second time we talk about Dominik Ladler. He's smart.
Yes.
He knows when to pick his race, and Kimi Hapler is coming into the pits, probably just too much damage for him to carry on with. But coming back to Dominik Ladler, he knows how to pick his battles, and we are 1/3 of the way through, basically. Do you really want to fight with Remco Major for 4 laps straight?
I'm sure Remco would love it, but yeah, it's definitely a choice you've got to make, whether it's worth risking Ali Zahir catching up. The gap's only 7 seconds back to Ali Zahir, and if these two started fighting, it would definitely slow them down.
Oh, and Brandon Hood also put his car into the pits, but not to repair. He has retired from the race. Fortunately, there seem to be some technical issues. Also, just confirming in chat that his wheel is doing some weird things. So that's very unfortunate. It was looking like a good race. Of course, there was the incident at the carousel, but there's still one more chance left.
Just the way the Nordschleife works sometimes, isn't it?
Well, not really part of the Nordschleife, but another reason for a DNF we can check off the bingo card, I guess.
Jimmy Harpler coming out of the pits just in front of Jason Gazar, a tiny bit behind Torsten. So he's got a newly repaired M2. He's put new tyres on it as well. So I'm expecting his pace to be back up to kind of a more Kimmy-like level pretty quickly.
Yeah, he will be up to 8th in no time, I think. He's already setting up a pass to against Thorsten S here. But we know that he otherwise is a very consistent driver. We've seen it especially in FDRL in the last few races. But also in the likes of RCL. And we don't know.
Yeah, he's had some very good results recently.
Very much so. And he has 7 drivers in front of them. And at least 5 of them I could probably name an instance of them crashing into the wall at the Nordschleife. So
it can happen to the best of us. Not that I'm placing myself along the best people. It happens to me all the time.
Dennis Kurzer slowly catching up to Julian Chicot. It's fluctuating a bit.
Yeah, his last lap round was a shade quicker than Julian Chicot's time. So he's got a bit of a pace advantage on the Frenchman. He is French, isn't he?
No, not quite.
No.
I think he's from Poland. But I give you the point that the name sounds quite French. I'm not sure how often he has heard this or not. But at least according to his profile, unless I'm completely wrong now. But white on top and red on the bottom, to me, is Poland. I mean, possibly as a German you should know the neighbor's flags, but I know many other people in this country who don't.
I'm terrible at flags, that's why I never go on TV quiz shows.
But you just recognize the ones with the Union Jack.
I mean, that's fairly easy. Although, random fact from me, as you know, I like to spit out some random facts. It's the Union flag when it's on land. It's only the Union Jack when it's at sea.
That is interesting. I never thought of that.
It's a pointless fact, but there you go.
Oh, Dennis Kurzer hitting the wall at right side, going in way too hot. Seems not too bad in terms of damage, but it is, didn't help his catch-up story to Julian Chicot.
No, he's lost a few seconds again, but he's not too bad. He's still in contention for that. Kimi Harpler's got a long way to go before he starts catching up to Dennis Kurzer. But he has got good pace, so we'll see what he can do as the race carries on. Still 35 minutes to go.
We will keep you posted on the lap times after the next lap, I think. He has to make to have a really good chance, 10 seconds a lap, maybe 12. But Remco Major now freed from his chains. I mean, it would be cool if I could back you up with some cool facts about other flags, but I don't really have them.
I'm not sure there are any cool facts about flags, are there?
Unlikely. I don't know. Well, there is the thing that you can basically find any Scandinavian flag in the Norwegian flag, in terms of shape or color, and both. But I don't know if that's really a fact or just something people made up. Oh, Dominic Ladler has walled it. Has damage to the front left and he lost 4 seconds.
Yeah, he's the gap between him and Remco Mayor has just opened up dramatically, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Although it makes it a very nice timing table right now, where it's 7 seconds between Dominic Ladler and Remco Mayor, and then 7 seconds back to Ali Zahir, and 7 seconds back to Adrian Lenoir.
You know what I found more interesting or more satisfying
Well,
while you
what could
said
be
it?
more interesting than that?
Not more interesting, but more satisfying while you said that, which unfortunately isn't the case anymore. Adrian Lenoir was 22 seconds back, Timothy Rich 33, and Julian Chico 66. And I think Kimi Halpler 111. But yeah, very... Well, if I say atypical now, it just repeats everything we said all the time, but I think that's the first time we've seen Ladler in the war this season, isn't it? Or do you remember any instance?
I think it might be the second race we've seen him making mistakes. I'm sure there's one other time it's happened.
But has he walled it?
I don't know. But also the fact that we can kind of count them on one hand and still have enough to grip something is pretty impressive.
It sure is. Maybe we commentator's custom, maybe we didn't. Nonetheless, we enter lap 4.
We are always saying that he drives real good, and he seems to carry on driving real good. So I'm not sure Dominic Ladler is commentator's cursable.
Well, he was at Orchard. So, not sure. Dennis Kurzer seems to have lost more pace due to his mistake than you might have anticipated. The gap to Julien Chicot has grown to 6 seconds.
Rowan asking in chat if I commentate as Kirsten again. It was not me.
It was me.
You have been. It was Lino.
So see, I can do it too.
It's a power we share between us.
But we do it in different ways, so I think that's fine.
we do, yeah.
I mean, you should have known my powers. I commentated as Cursed Ali yesterday and put money into that.
I know when you were cheating on me with another commentator. How dare you?
I would never. Good song from First and Forever. Can only recommend that one. You know, it was kind of complicated. He just said yes, and I couldn't quite say no, so it just happened.
Oh, yeah. You didn't have a choice. You're only a man.
Being at gunpoint, does it mean it's a choice in life or choice of life? Riddle me this. Yeah, I think now we can finally say the race has settled in. We have fairly distinct gaps between some cars. It's certainly not set in stone in terms of positions, but for now everybody can just settle into their groove, get ready to drive another half an hour with their most of the time damaged car. I think except for the car of Remco Mayor, there's not another scar-free car. Maybe Ali Zahir.
John has a fairly clean car. I won't say it's factory. Oh, no, actually, no, it's missing a front.
But, I'm not sure at which angle you looked at it when you said that, but I see three angles where you can see damage.
It was from behind on the Dottinger, and from there it didn't look it looked okay. But he's getting caught up by Jason Kazar right now, who has an equally smooshed in front end.
Yeah, but the rear is good, so I guess he got that going for him. Yeah, I would say you could put the car on eBay, never raced, never rallied. I mean, nobody's gonna notice.
Yeah. If you just showed it from the right hand side, it'd be fine. A few scratches, it'll buff out.
All repairable.
The front of the bumper down by the wheel arch, though, does seem to be very weak on these BMWs. It seems to snap off on a lot of these guys.
Well, you rather want to snap off than to cause any further damage to
Yeah,
other
true.
parts. Oh, Dennis Kurzer.
Dennis Kurzer seems to have some problems going on right now.
It sounds like pit limiter was on.
Yeah, he seems to be moving again.
Well, the gap to Kimi Hapler is shrunk to below 10 seconds. I think the damage he had previously as well, so I don't see more damage to the car. But
no, I don't think so. Just looking through the cars to see who's got the cleanest, and Adrian Lenore's is looking fairly clean. Kimi Harpler went into the pits, so he doesn't count.
Yeah, of course, he has a new car, basically, so I'm not sure if that's fair to compare.
Ali Zahir also pretty clean. Remco Mayor pretty clean. Dominic Ladler a little kiss of the wall, so he's got a bit of damage on his front left-hand side.
We will expect 7 laps here. So we've got about 2.5 left to go for most of them. But we see people still pushing the cars very far. And I think the car can be very snappy out of the sun if you drive it in TC0. Basically, the car has 3 moods, if you want to say so. You have the safe mode, which is default, which has TC2. Then you have the, okay, you can push it, but it will catch you. So it's the safe push mode in TC1 and the, okay, you are on your own, the TC0 mode. And driving TC0, as you said previously in the stream, most of the really fast drivers use it. I tend to use between 0 and 1, depending on how I feel with the car at that moment. But driving on TC2, you can push the car very hard. It gives you a lot of feedback. But once you really overdo it, it's hard to come back from it, especially in high speed turns. It's not going away from you as you had previously before we had the tire update. But what it does do is like snap quite violently if you are way too aggressive with the throttle. That's how I
the TC can be quite aggressive as well, isn't it? It's basically a road car traction control, so having it on definitely hurts you accelerating out of the corners, and you can notice a difference once you turn it off. But like you say, it's removing that safety net, and you've got to pay attention because it can still bite you in the ass.
What's really cool about this, though, I mean, of course, the M2 is the starter car in RENNSPORT. You will get one for free upon sign-up. And in general, it's a great car to learn. Like, if you want to enter any GT racing, starting off with the M2, also a step in real life, it's a great car to learn driving. It's got a lot of mechanical grip. It got just a slight bit of aero grip. It's a very well balanced car. And you have those different TC modes. So if you're new, you want to start with TC2, of course. You just want to, like, new to racing in general. You start on TC2. You don't really have to worry. You can focus on the racing aspect. You can focus on learning to find brake points, all that kind of stuff. And once you got that settled down, you lower the TC to 1. And then you start to feel, okay, if I keep the foot down on corner exit, it will really try to go away. It doesn't quite go away, but it will try to. It tells you, okay, this is too much. And once you feel comfortable with TC1, that you see you don't use the TC anymore anyway, go to TC0 and try. And I think that's the really great steps. It's not as complex as the GT3s, where you then also have to worry about brake bias, ABS. This car has a set brake bias, a set ABS. The only thing you really have to do is traction control.
While we've been talking about traction control, which is a very important subject, but Ali Zahir has taken Dominic Ladler and he's now in second place.
Very much so indeed. Oh, and there's also damage to the rear right of Dominic Ladler now.
Yeah, he's looking a bit crumbled. Yeah.
Well, maybe we did commentators curse Dominic Ladler here today.
But yeah, even though it is single car, basically a single setup, you've only got the traction control that you can change on it. You can see in the lap times people are doing here today that it very much highlights the difference in driver's skill, more because it's such a consistent platform for everyone. Remco Major's best lap right now is a 909.5. Whereas Dominic Ladler's is the second fastest lap time, which is a 9:12.22. Which we've said many times before, that Nordschleife is a very long track, but he's still 3 seconds quicker, which using basically the same car.
But you know what's very satisfying again about those lap times? They end on the same digit. 555 and 222. I do like that. Actually, Dominic Ladler 2.222. But yeah, it's
going that extra mile.
Of course, the thing with driver skill is always it's also dependent on the car. Some people might be better in GT3, some better in M2. Some are gods in LMDH, but will be 2 seconds off in a GT4. It all depends a lot on the car, which is also why, for example, Formula 1 rejects can be so great in other series, or the other way around. Gods of endurance racing are not doing well in Formula 1. They're not worse racers, they're just not really accustomed to the car and have different skills. But
yes,
I think a good parity car is a car like the M2, because it limits the amount of skill to the pure driving in itself. If that driving style fits you or not, that's a different story, but there's not much to play around with. Even in a Porsche Cup car, which is also a car I would consider being very good for just straight up racing, but they have more stuff to worry about, and the Porsche even more so has its own characteristics. I mean, of course, put a Kevin Estre or put a Lawrence Vantor into a Cup car and he will probably be faster in it than a BMW factory driver, because they are used to front engine cars. Not to do with their skill, just with the way you are accustomed to. With the BMW M2, it really gives a stable platform for everybody.
Yeah, it's a fairly neutral, I suppose, car in the way that it handles and drives. So it's, unless you're really into fairly neutral cars, then everyone's got to adapt a little bit to driving it. But I think it's easily understandable. And with the suspension being softer, you can really tell from the way the cockpit moves where the car is weighting up. And I think that's a useful thing for the newer drivers to learn. Oh, all my weight's on my front left. That's why my force feedback is heavier and I can turn a lot harder than I would normally.
Jason Kizar against John Inge Nordnes for P10, both with pretty similar damage on their cars. But here comes the Canadian, and up into P10 he goes. What also contributes, of course, to the driving style is some drivers prefer oversteer, some prefer understeer. And the cool thing, even though you can't really set brake bias or ABS in this car, it does allow you to approach turns very differently. You can throw it in deeper, try to get the rear to step out and basically cause oversteer. But you can also just drive it normally, safe, and have a bit of understeer. So depending on your driving style through turns, you just brake differently for the turn, and the car does allow you to drive it that way. It's not like like I have to bring it up again because it's the best example. Porsche 911 will always have understeer in that sense. You can't really make it oversteer because oversteer will kill you in that car.
Yes, there is definitely a way to drive Porsches, and that is the only way you drive Porsches. Whereas this car does give you a bit more of a chance to play around with style and find out what it is that you like and what fits your driving.
As somebody who is well accustomed to the car, we said it previously, Remco Mayor, of course, he really enjoys this car. I wouldn't even doubt that it is currently his favorite car to drive in RENNSPORT.
Yeah, he's been really enjoying it, hasn't he?
Yeah. He was also very hyped for it, but I can understand it drives very nicely. I personally am not as big a fan of the car itself. It drives great, but it's just not my type of car, where we go back to the different driving styles, of course, but he really flourishes in this car, and I think you can see how confident he is through the turns. I mean, Remco Mayor in general is a man of all trades in terms of driving cars fast, at least in the virtual world. I don't know how it is in real life. Knowing him, I wouldn't go into a car with him at all times. But at least in the virtual world, he seems to be doing very, very well. We've seen him racing prototypes, we've seen him racing GT cars, Pragas, anything. I've also seen some races on other platforms where he's driven some LMP2s and stuff. Like, whatever you give him, he's going to do very well in it. I don't think there are many cars out there that he wouldn't be able to drive. But this is like where he really shines, I think.
Yeah, he's definitely found his style with the M2, and he found it very, very quickly in testing behind the scenes, that's for sure. He gave us all some tips on how to drive, and it definitely helped me kind of learn how to drive it a little bit better. But it's something that he seems to excel at, is picking up a car and learning, just knowing how to drive it.
Oh, Alizaya. Oh, what a catch. Oh, that was... I mean, also the place rated, you wouldn't be surprised to see it in the new YouTube compilation.
Going way to the back of the field, Jason Kazar has passed John now, and is making his way slowly towards Torsten.
That would be for 9th.
Kimi Harpler has got past Dennis Kurtzer, and Kimi is slowly closing the gap up to Julian Sacco. We've got 15 minutes left now, so they've not got a long time, but there is still time for things to happen. Dominic Ladler seems to have closed the gap up to Ali Zahir. It's gone back up to 1.5 seconds now.
I just wanted to mention it because it seems like Dominic Ladler has more pace.
He's losing a little bit of time down Dottinger Hohe. His car is damaged, and that does affect your top speed.
I can tell you that, yeah, it does.
It definitely does.
Yeah, but he has 2 laps, so I think if he just keeps the pace up, this might go down
Yeah.
to the wire.
That was Remco Mayol just set his fastest lap of the race with a 909.161.
Not as satisfying as a 111.
We'll check Ali and Dominic's lap times as they come through this time.
Dominic Ladler lost a bit of time through through Foxhole, not Foxhole, what am I talking about? Hohenrhein and Tiergarten. That one was a bit. I'm not sure if he can push the car as much on high speed.
No, it's definitely looking a bit worse for wear, so I wouldn't be surprised if he has to back off a little bit in the high aero sections. But his last lap was just over a second faster than Ali Zahir's. And the gap is currently 2 seconds, so it's definitely not over yet.
You need about, with this car, we're talking 4 to 5 tenths at max on the Döttinger Höhe. With a good exit, or at least one that is on par with the car in front that you need. If you have a very good exit, Dominic Ladler seemed to have a good exit initially. You may be able to get closer on the Döttinger throughout. Of course, this is a very momentum-based car as well.
Yes, for sure. Keeping the speed up is the most important thing with it. I think you said earlier on that it's got a lot of mechanical grip, and if you throw it into a corner fast and you're smooth with your steering, it is surprising how much speed it can carry through a corner.
And on the other side, if you start sliding it, you will actually lose quite a lot of speed because the tires start scrubbing. So basically what you do is you break traction and have a braking momentum from the tire. And that will slow you down. So you want some oversteer, just a little bit, but you don't want too much. And I think this is also something that suits the likes of Dominic Ladler, who tend to have a very calm driving style in itself. If you think about the likes of Lunio and Zai, they're a bit more aggressive, as we've seen yesterday at Orchard Road, in their AMGs.
Are you saying that Dominic Ladler is a smooth operator?
I would say he is a smooth operator. I'm not sure if he would sing it, but...
I'm not.
Neither would I. Maybe we should add a sound.
If we did sing it, would we get demonetized on Twitch?
I think we would get permanently banned for harassing the community. We both ain't singers, are we?
I don't think all the auto-tune in the world exists that would make listening to me sing anything less than ear bleeding.
Best I can do is guitar. I was actually sitting in voice chat recently. I think it was with Benze and Etienne.
Yeah.
And we were just having some talks and stuff. And we also talked about like music and so on. And Benze asked me if I could play him, like out of joke, one day a romantic like music part or something. And I was like, maybe I could, but I don't know. I wouldn't even know if I were to date a girl and she would ask me if I would do it, because the likelihood of me then fucking it up. I can play, but I don't know. When it does matter, I'm not delivering all the time.
You don't fold under pressure, do you?
Well, I do.
Oh.
I don't even know if it's really that, but...
Dominic Ladler not really being able to keep a consistently closing the gap. That was a terrible sentence on Ali Zahir right now. The gap seems to open and close a little bit. Maybe dependent on the sector they're in and how much damage Dominic's taken.
Yeah, I think of course, what's very important about the Nordschleife with the length is also to keep in mind that drivers are very good at different parts of the track. And I think where Dominik Lalla made up the most time was about from the carousel to the exit of Galgenkopf, so the whole downhill part. I suspect he will lose time now up Kesselchen because it's very high speed. He still got the damage, unless he gets a very good exit here out of Bergwerk. But other than that, it will be hard. He has a good exit though, so it might limit the damage. But I suspect he will, if he closes in, he will do so after the carousel. Of course, also where Ali Zaya made the mistake last lap. If that was a knock-on confidence, I'm not sure, especially a driver like Ali. But it does something to you. You can't quite just... Oh, not many people can just shake it off as it is.
No.
Oh, but Remco big gains.
Just... Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, Remco Major's just gone through the carousel, and there's 8 minutes left, so I'm guessing there'll be one more lap after this one before the end of the race, which will put it at 8? 7?
We predicted 7 laps. They were true. Oh, but Dominik Lalla, 1.5 seconds. His run through the mood curve was insane.
And that's got to play on your mind as the driver in front to see the gap shrinking that much over such a small section of track. You've got to be thinking, what have I done wrong there? And you don't want to be second guessing yourself on the Nordschleife.
Yeah, Lisa knows how to catch up to people. I think he also knows what it is like to be catched up by others, but still, I mean, there's one more lap to go. If Dominik Lalla can get a good run through here. I think we will see the gap fluctuating a bit more. It's anyone's game. And of course, if somebody puts it into the wall too hard, that's maybe not out of the race, but you will not make it home in the position you are in currently.
Am I right in thinking that the Nordschleife has been changed slightly and that jump no longer exists?
It does exist still. It's just a bit... The thing is, it's not as big anymore.
Okay.
It's not as steep, if you could say so, but with the cars getting faster and faster, notably GT3 over the last years, you will still have that jump. It's not like... The jump is basically the same it was 10 years ago with the cars of the time, to my knowledge.
Right, okay.
And that's pretty much the big change there. And I know people will always go like, yeah, but it just kills the Nordschleife. But in the end, if you look at the Nordschleife 100 years ago, or close to 100 years ago, it looked totally different. It's just the way tracks have to change, and the Nordschleife is still the most true to original and brutal track, I think, out there. As Dominik Lalla now, coming out of Galgenkopf, 8/10.
Yeah, he's brutal in that sector. He seems to catch up so much time. Just not quite enough that the slipstream will drag him along. And he's about the same gap as it was last lap at this time. So
I think he's half a second closer,
check out,
isn't
he? Yeah, maybe. We'll check out the lap times at the end of this lap and see how much the time changed over the length of a lap.
Jason Kizami were only 4 seconds behind Thorsten S, so they will probably get closer together.
Adrian Leneur, 6 seconds back from Dominik Lalla, which I think it was bigger than that before.
Oh yeah, you're right. And I mean, if you think about the way Adrian Lunio got into that position in the first place, he wasn't fighting for P4 when he got there. He was fighting for P6. Nope. And just suddenly found himself there.
So the last lap around Ali Zahir was about 0.6 seconds slower than Dominic Ladler. So yeah, you were probably right.
Of course I was. But, yeah. I think it will be interesting now to see what happens to their gap during the last lap. We will probably see Alizar building up a bit of a gap again in the first few sectors. Dominic Ladler
Yeah.
shrinking that down again in the last few sectors. But all that matters is the gap at the entry of the Röttinger Höhe.
Adrian Lenoir was 1.2 seconds faster than Dominic Ladler in the last lap, which the gap is currently 5.8 seconds. But, you know, if these two do close up and start fighting for position, then it could definitely bring Adrian Lenoir into that fight.
Yeah, especially once we talk about any mistake from any of them. That can easily lose you a bit more than 6 seconds on this track. But I gotta say, I'm positively surprised by the likes of Thorsten S. and Jason Kizar now fighting for P9, or soon to be fighting for P9. Oh, and maybe I shouldn't have spoken because Jason Kizar just...
You did that.
I
you
did
that.
Spinning out of the carousel. But they're carrying on, and they're just trying to finish the race, and I think that's very respectable in its own right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one goes on me.
We got a good close-up view of Jason Kazar's car there, and just how abused that poor M2's engineering is.
A good thing in the real M2 series, you only have to pay up to 500 euros. I mean, you have to make the most out of your money then, I guess. I think it was 500 euros you have to... Like, your car is insured fully with 500 euros of own... Which is, of course, if you just do a bit of damage to your car, then you have to pay 500 euros because one bumper for this car is already 500. And if you toe-tail it, it's also 500. Yeah, I don't know. But,
kind of like the opposite of an excess.
Yeah. I'm actually not sure if they fix every single thing. The car, if I'm not mistaken, in the BMW M2 Cup series, that, for example, you will see running alongside the DTM. I think BMW Motorsport owns the car and you basically rent it out in a way. Might be a bit different than that, but you are not buying the car, I think.
Yeah, like a Rive and Drive karting.
Yes.
Where the competition owns all the carts and you just pay to use one, essentially.
I think that's the case. KTM also had a system like this in their driving academies, which was pretty cool because what they did is you basically bite your way into the season. So you paid a fee and then you could just enter the races. And they would assign you the cars they had at random. And basically everybody would have different cars each time. So that nobody is in inferior or better equipment. I think that was actually quite a cool system. And they even had one of the KTMs was driven by Michael Schumacher in the Race of Champions.
Oh, nice.
Had a different badge.
Yeah, it's a slight. It's I believe it's probably more like the M2 Cup system with the Praga Cup, where I believe Praga owns all of the cars and you just pay to drive in it.
Yeah, that could be very well the case. Of course, you can also buy these cars if you watch. I think it was Britcar. Those Pragas owned by privateer teams. They are multi-class series. So it's different on the different occasions. I'm not sure about the M2s you will see at the 24-hour Nürburgrings, for example. They are privately owned. But for the spec series, that is definitely a very interesting case. And of course, a much, I wouldn't say cheaper way, because it's still expensive. Like, we can't afford that. But it is cheaper than trying to set up your own race team or being part of a race team where you have to either be very good to picked up by one or to have lots of money to rely on and basically be a pay driver.
I'm not going to say there should be a RENNSPORT M2 car in the M2 Cup, but maybe it's something we should think about.
It would be fun, yeah. Put in the next RCL champion, Dominic Ladler. Oh, and again, Dominic Ladler.
Yeah, exactly.
Just talking about it, 5/10 out of Alizai and Moodkurve. Just saying.
Yeah, he's got a lot closer than he was last lap at this point, but also Adrian Lenoir less than 5 seconds behind the two of them. So he's still closing that gap up.
I tell you, it will boil down to the Bertinger Hill. Now, will that damage?
Might do.
Will that damage stop a slingshot overtake for Dominic Ladler? That will be the big question for me.
But yeah.
Oh, Adrian Lunio has spun out of the coaster. This one is on you.
I never mentioned him.
You mentioned him.
I did mention him just before then, fair.
You said his name.
I did say his name. Dominic Ladler throwing that car over the curbs there. He's desperately trying to keep that gap down to Alizai here.
Now we enter a strong point.
He is just over a second behind. And we've seen how strong Dominic Ladler has been up here the last couple of laps.
We go below 1 second.
Dominic and Ali are in the same chat channel at the minute, so I wonder if it's quiet and tense or if they're just shouting abuse at each other.
And Remco's also in there, probably talking about some stories about Max Verstappen or something. Oh, and Dominic Ladler too hot into Schwalbenschwanz. He had to try it, but it was just too much.
He did, yeah.
His chance gone.
With Adrian Lenoir dropping back here, I suppose he had no downside to giving it a go. Well, that's been a pretty heroic couple of laps by Dominic Ladler.
It's been a heroic couple of laps by Dominic Ladler, and it has been a heroic drive by Remco Major, who's coming across the line to win in the RENNSPORT Nordschleife League in the M2 Cup. With a very good...
you didn't feature very much.
Well, he did have quite the features at the start, if you think about it.
He did, that's true.
He had to fight his way through. I really want to talk to the guy who does the multiplayer races. I think he really needs to think about some stuff when setting up servers. But it will be Alizai here, coming home in second, unless he does a big mistake here, but I don't think he will now throw it in the last lap. That would be very weird.
You had to chance it though, didn't you?
I had to try. He cost me 10 euros yesterday that I didn't have to pay. But Alizai comes home in second. Dominic Ladler in third. Still made it a podium position. And it will greatly help him in the championship standings. And Adrian Lunier, he will make his way home in fourth. I think he can be pretty happy with that. Timothy Fridge in fifth. Julian Chico out of Galgenkopf. Kimi Hapler actually isn't too far away from him.
No, he's been closing up, but he's just not quite able to get close enough by the end of the race. He has been lapping quite a bit quicker than Julian Chacot, but after having to fix all that damage in the pits, he just had a bit too much of a gap to make it towards before the end of the race.
Just having a look at the way the points will adjust. If Dennis Kurzer in 8th, still a bit of a way to go for him, but I think that this will be the first race he's able to finish, which is nice to see.
I think have we maintained the tradition of Rowan the Hood starts to finishes this year?
Well,
I mean, we've just got a few people left to finish the race now, who you could call the BMW spares and repairs on eBay section.
that is one way you could put it.
One thing that might be worth mentioning is Torsten has an unserved drive-through, which, if the gap stays the same, will put him behind Jason Kazar, I believe.
Oh yeah, that is correct, because Jason Kazar is only 10 seconds behind a drive-through penalty. I think that's converted into a 25-second penalty, if I'm not mistaken. If we assume that this will still be the case, the new championship standings will actually still see Enrico Werniger in second by only 2 points, though. But Dominic Ladler is... Wait a second. No, I think I'm in a mistake here. Indeed that is.
The gap between Jason Kazar and Torsten right now is sticking at about 15 seconds. Like I said before, Torsten has an unserved drive-through penalty, which I believe is 25 or 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's 25.
So if Jason can keep the gap, which they're currently on Dottinger Hoor, he should leapfrog Torsten in the final standings. John Igny Nordness is currently lapping at the same time as Jason, and he has been for a while, and so the gap between those has stayed pretty stable.
I mean, we should
Torsten
see...
comes in to take the checkered flag here.
Should see it the moment they come across the line.
He's going in to serve his drive-through on his last lap, which might be a mistake because he's not going to get all the way through the pit lane, obviously, and it won't clear until the end of the pits. But he is going to have to drive down to the line under the pit limiter, which puts the gap even closer as Jason Kazar comes through. Finish the race with only John to finish. He's currently on the Dottinger Hoher. Coming down his last time through Tiergarten, which is a bit sketchy in an M2, especially one that's taken that much damage. And finally crossing the line, weaving away. Don't weave too much yet, John. You haven't got over the finish line. No, no, you did it too soon.
It was a bit early, but seems like he's going to finish. So yeah, that was our race. And indeed, Jason Kizar got the position from Thorsten S, moving him up into 9th. Now, I think it was quite the eventful race.
Lino's still doing the cameras, but he's off on the audio, so I'm guess it's up to me to wind this thing up. So in 2 weeks we've got the final round. You're still there. I thought you'd disappeared.
No, I'm still here. You didn't hear me, but the stream did hear me. But yeah, I think it's a good idea if you wind this up this time.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, in 2 weeks we've got the final round of the RNL, which will be a 120-minute, that's 2 hours for you maths challenge people, race in a GT3, which we've seen a good amount of racing with the GT3s here throughout the RNL season, but I think the 120-minute race will be something special to watch. It's got a little bit faster on time, but I believe it'll still all be within the day, isn't it, Lino?
It is all within the day.
Yeah.
So we won't see much night action, but it will be a bit darker and interesting.
Fair enough. So hopefully we'll see you all back for that one in 2 weeks' time. Tomorrow, if you fancy watching a race, it is our community event, which is the GT3s and hypercars at Road Atlanta.
Also for a 90-minute race.
Which me and Lino will be back for.
With more fun stories.
But have you got anything final to add, Lino?
Yeah, I think I've run the standings real quickly.
Okay.
And it will be interesting. Dominic Ladler's entering the final race on 65 points. And then for P2, Julian Chicot, 41, Enrico Brueninger, 40, Ali Zaha, 35. So for the podium, it's still everybody's game. Then we have Remco Meyer, 22, Timothy Fritsch, 21, Adrian Lunio, 14. But Dominic Ladler still isn't safe, of course. You can see with this race, depending on the number of drivers, of course, we have in the next one. But Remco Meyer collecting 22 points here today for the win. Julian Chicot, Enrico Brueninger, and Ali Zaha, that's only 6 points between 3 drivers.
So everything to play for between those guys for the next round, that's for sure.
And you will get the bonus for completing 50% distance, of course, as well. So that will also play into account. And you really want to get every single point you can get. But yeah, I mean, you close it up very nicely. Tomorrow we will have more racing action to deliver for you. We will have RCL back next week, Friday. And I'm looking forward to that. So with all that said, enjoy your rest of the evening, enjoy the weekend, and see you tomorrow.
Goodbye.